Number 3, you can become a guest blogger. Lots of potential here. There are millions of blogs, and some of those blogs are specific for your niche, and some of them have a good following. That's what you want. You want blogs with a following. And then that way you can piggyback, if you like. You basically, you're borrowing their following. So if the owner of the blog consents to, because they're always looking for new content. They don't want to be creating content themselves. If they've got a significant following, their basic policy might be to produce content every day, and they can't do it all themselves. So they look for guest bloggers. They look for people who will step up and give them some good content, but it's got to be good content. And they usually have rules and etc. And if you can comply with those rules, then maybe they'll accept you as a guest blogger. Now, if you get accepted, that could be pretty good, because you can get a lot of traffic from their audience who are reading the blog, because their audience is presumably on the mailing list for the blogger, and so whenever a new post is published, he will inform his mailing list, right? So these are people who might become good members of your tribe. So you're using someone else's audience. Beautiful. That's number 3. Number 4 is media interviews. Now, oftentimes a media interview happens as a result of a book getting published, or if you're if you're in show business, something like that, you're a musician, you get a new CD published, maybe you'll get a couple of interviews, or if you're an actor and there's a movie or something like that. But most of us are not like that. We've got 1 or 2 budding authors, but most of us are not actors and all the rest of it. So how could we get media interviews? Well, sometimes media is always hungry for content, online and offline media. They're always hungry for content. Maybe you've got an interesting story. Maybe you've got a story of triumph, a hard luck story, and then you did good in the end, or a hero kind of story with an angle, with a different angle, a twist. And you could pitch that idea to an online publication or an offline publication, and they say, yeah, that sounds interesting, let's do an interview. We'll interview you, right? So there's another way of doing it. Okay, number 5, other social media platforms. That's what I was saying before about like Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram perhaps, depends on your business, even Pinterest, right? Other platforms, and if you can figure out a way of sending people that you meet on Facebook to some of these other platforms, that is good, because I'll see the content in different forms. For instance, let's say it's Twitter. Twitter has a limit as to how many characters. It used to be 144. I think it's now 280 from memory. Okay, so if you can get people to go onto Twitter and follow you on Twitter, and sometimes that will happen if you get them onto your mailing list, and then your mailing list sends them to your blog. Then on the blog, they'll see the little icons like the Twitter icon, Instagram icon, and so on, and they click on it to follow you. All right, so now they'll start seeing your content on Twitter. Now, the content on Twitter may essentially be the same content that you might have on Facebook, but it will just be in abbreviated form, and it might display as a heading, and then a line of text, and then a link to where the full content is to be found. Obviously, the best place for that will be your blog, right? So now they're on Twitter, and they're seeing the content in a different form. I just think it kind of reinforces, right? So it has a reinforcing effect when you move people around. They're on different. They see you on different platforms. So other social media platforms, LinkedIn is another good one. Particularly if you're targeting businesses, right? You're in the B2B area, perhaps